Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Design Makeover, a show where you can watch Canva experts improve designs submitted by the community and learn a few design tips and tricks along the way. My name is Leah, and I'm from Canva's Design School. All our past episodes are also posted to YouTube. So for those of you watching the replay on YouTube, simply look for the playlist link in the description of the video. Well, that's enough from me. It's time for me to hand over to our amazing guest for today's show, Rica. So I'll hand it over to her.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rica, and I'm a design educator here at Canva. So aside from being a design educator, I'm also a graphic designer and have been for more than 10 years. And it's actually interesting how I became a graphic designer. So I took product design in college, and we were doing a lot of packaging and product posters. And it was then that I realized that I enjoy graphic design more than I do product design. So through the years, though, I got to work on different projects like museums, exhibitions, books, etc., etc. So I guess you could say I'm not your typical graphic designer given my college background. But enough about me. I'd love to know what you love about Canva. And where do you use it for? I see that we're all over for my editing, social media mockups, Gina's a hairstylist and you use it a lot for your stories. It's awesome. And I use it for projects, work related in school. That's awesome. Create a video. Ooh, videos. Videos are really great. I love making videos, content creation, bookkeeping. Wow. It's a lot. That's a lot of uses for Canva. It's really a great product, a really great program. So social media poster, documents list, FB ads, awesome. Okay, so first off, I just want to thank you to the students for sharing their work. And I'm so excited to show you how easy it is to use Canva to create your designs. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. And today I'll be making over 3 designs submitted by our students from a course by Design School. So these are your email newsletter, a Trifold Brochure, and an Instagram carousel. If you'd like to attend our future design makeovers live and get a chance to ask questions to our design experts, you can sign up to any of our live events via Design School events, available at this link, which Leah will also post in the chat now. Okay, so these are just some of the design principles that we'll be focusing on today. So first is hierarchy, then we have white space, and then lastly, we have contrast. So these 3 principles are what guides us to make design decisions, arrange elements, and create beautiful designs. So hierarchy is what helps guide your viewers' eyes as they look at your layout. It determines the order in which elements should be read or seen first to last so that the information makes sense. And white space or negative space refers to areas of a design that have no design elements. It's important for making a design uncluttered while making other elements stand out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it should be white or free of patterns. A subtle pattern can add visual interest and function as breathing space within a design. And lastly, contrast. Contrast is the difference between elements within a design that makes them stand out from each other. So this can be in the form of color or size and can be used to create emphasis. Now let's see the first design. This is made by Lester and is an email newsletter for a local management consultancy firm. What I really like about this design is the color palette. He used just the right amount of balance with the neutral colors and the yellow as accents to highlight some of the more important information. The photos he used are also really good because they use clean lines, like in the building photos, that match the style of the logo. So speaking of logo, that's another thing that I love in this design. Lester designed this logo as part of the course he took, and it is a really nice rebrand because 1, it's simple, it's timeless, and it's memorable. But I think we can simplify this further and make the flow of information clearer and easier to understand as an email newsletter. So what are we waiting for? Let's head on to the editor. So this is the newsletter by Lester. And it is actually a 2-page newsletter. It is in the size of an A4. Okay, so the first thing that I will do is to create a custom size design. If you go to create design in the homepage of Canva, and then just input the custom size. And actually, I'm just going to double the size of the height of an A4, which is 29.7. So I've already done a new document with that size. And the reason for this is because when you receive newsletters, it's actually it can actually be long, and you tend to just scroll down. Okay, so I just doubled the size, the height of the newsletter from A4 to A4s. Okay, and starting from a blank page, first thing that I want to highlight first is the logo. Because if you look at this from your mobile screens, it's very small. You can hardly see what it is, and we can actually get rid of these headlines here. And fortunately, and thankfully, Lester shared with us the different logos that he created. So this is the horizontal lockup, and this is what we will be using here. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're going to do. And actually, we're going to shuffle the information a little bit, because if you notice, the company description is at the top. So what I want to highlight here is the new training that they're offering. So I've actually pre-made the typography and the typesetting here. I'll just zoom in so that you guys can see what I've done. Okay. So the first thing that I did was to really define the hierarchy of the typography for the headlines, and actually for like the buttons and the violators. I've used corporative in bold. For the subheadings, I've used Montserrat semi-bold. And then for the body copy, I've used Montserrat. So there's just a difference in weight and, of course, point size. And as you notice, I use actually just 2 typefaces and 3 font styles here. And there's a general rule of thumb when you do font pairings. You don't go more than 3, because it will look very distracting for your reader. Okay, and then the next thing that I moved here is the quote, which is in this original design. It's also underneath the new training offering that they have. And then what's the next thing that they should see, they should read? It's about the services. So I've added here also, so it's still the same. So we've used corporative for our headlines, Montserrat semi-bold for the subheadings, and Montserrat for the body copy. So the other services and the other trainings offered. And then that short description about the company, I've moved it at the bottom. You know, it's more like a, by the way, we are Cebol Pinoy Management Consultancy. The recipients of your newsletter will already know who you are. So they've already signed up for your newsletter. So I've moved that there along with the social media icons. And of course, another thing I moved is the unsubscribe. Unsubscribe button is important when you're creating your newsletters, but it shouldn't be highlighted as big as this, because you don't want them to unsubscribe. So it should be there, it should be seen, but it shouldn't be highlighted. So I've moved it at the bottom along with the privacy policy. So there you go. Okay, so moving on with that, let us use the horizontal lockup of the logo. So we'll just copy this one. So I use the shortcut, which is in an Apple. You use Command C, and then to paste is Command V. So it's here. I'll just move it at the top. I'll zoom out a little bit. Okay, so right now it's a little big, so we'll just make it smaller. Just a little bit smaller. Okay. And then, okay. So immediately from the get-go, they already see that it's from Siebel Pinoy, and we can get rid of that headline, Siebel Pinoy Management Consultancy. And the next thing I want to do is to add here a yellow box. The colors are really great. So we just go to elements and then create a box here and then move it here. So just move it down a little bit. Make it a little bit bigger there. And then let's change the color to yellow. And as I mentioned, the photos are also great. So let's copy this photo and then paste it over here. Smaller, align it to everything. So when you are creating your designs, so make sure that your elements are actually anchored to something so that, you know, the eye doesn't go from left to right, zigzag, whatever else way they're going to read it. Okay, so that's looking nice. And then for the quote, so here this is the same size, but this is also a different letter spacing or tracking. So I've increased that a little bit just to differentiate it from the quote. And I would like to make a box there. So let's copy this one. Also Command C and then Command V to paste, and then place one there. And then make that a bit smaller. And then let's move it backward. Okay, so let's make that a little bit bigger somewhere. Okay, but it's blending with your box here. So I will use the gray that is here in the logo. So let's just use that gray. And then let's change this to the yellow color, or maybe white, Let's just use white. Okay, so that is actually a nice break from the first part. That is also the reason why I move the quote up with the new training that they're offering to there, to just below it. Okay, so now we have the services. And since this is a very formal business newsletter, I would still like to use this photo, the building photos, because they really create these nice shapes and lines that, you know, is a visual interest to your reader. So let's just copy that one and then place it here. Okay, so let's just move that. Okay, so I'll just anchor it here and there. Just make it smaller. And then so I was talking about anchor, so I'll just make this longer so that it's a narrow photo and then narrow frame. So I'll just move this here a little bit, get a little bit more of those nice textures that this building is creating, and then press done and then move that backward. Okay, but okay, so this is looking weird now that it's flush to the edge of this photo. So let's just move this down a little bit. So I'll just move it down a little bit and there. So let's just see it as a whole here. So that's the whole redesign. So let's just compare that with the first page. So here we've actually gotten rid of this background because it's not really serving any purpose right now. And so I've talked about negative space or white space. And by removing that, our information is clearer and easier to digest. And the visual hierarchy is also very evident with this kind of layout. You already know which one you should see first and which one's the next, and then so on and so forth. So that's our design, okay? And then for the other trainings, we do have other trainings, but I still want to separate it from the services because it's a by the way. And I feel like we are lacking a little bit of yellow. So I'll just copy this one. And then I will make another violator for the other services. Okay, so let's just align it to the width of this. All right, and then move it backward. Okay, so there you go. So that is our violator. All right, so center that. And so in the second page of Lester's original design, he actually used 3 photos as well to really say what the other trainings are about. So I will just copy this, this, and this. Now you may be asking, why am I not using this one? So the reason I'm not using that is because the background is too busy. There's a lot of things going on behind the man who's standing in the center. And it just doesn't match well with the rest of the feel and the aesthetic of the other photos. So I'll just copy these ones and then paste it here. Okay. So I'll just move this one, then align it here. And let's just make that smaller. It's smaller. And then adjust the cropping. So let's make that, I'll zoom in, sorry. Okay, so you guys can see. Okay, so let's just move it a little bit. There. And then the second photo, which this photo was originally for the ISO, the new training. So we'll use that for the second as a replacement for the second one for lean management. Just make that smaller. So, okay. Get smaller, and then center it to the text. And then for the last photo, we'll do the same thing. Okay. And then adjust the cropping again. Okay. Put that down. All right. Okay. So now we have the last part. Usually it's the contact information or the social media links. So for this one, because we want to separate it from our services, the trainings, and the other copy, I want to use the gray for this. And copy that one and then paste. And then just move that, made that bigger and then send to back. Okay, so let's view the whole thing so you guys can see what it looks like right now. Okay, just by doing that simple dissection and arrangement of information, we're able to actually identify which one goes where. But the gray and the black are clashing. Can hardly read the text there. So let's just zoom in and then we'll change this and the line and as well as the privacy policy and unsubscribe to white. And the text to white. And then the follow us. So in the original design, the social media icons are really, really huge. It's really huge. You're not supposed to make it that big. It's just a reminder for your recipients to follow your social media. So it shouldn't be that big. So it shouldn't be that highlighted, that pronounced, okay? So I'll just copy these ones onto the next, onto our new design. And then let's make this white. And then just paste that. And then actually on group, so we can remove this one. So let's delete that. Well, if you look at this, actually the yellow against the gray is looking really, Good. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll just use that same yellow and then resize it just a little bit smaller, about that much. And since this is for your desktop and your mobile or your tablet, having icons, having clickable icons like this and so near each other is problematic if you're using a small screen. So we'll just add more space in between. Okay. So let's just make that small. Okay. And then, so add more space in between. So let's just move this and this there like that. And then we'll just go to position and space evenly. We'll use horizontally so that they have the same space in between. And then change the follow us to yellow so that it's matching. Okay. Feel like they're all the same. Okay. Are they the same yellow? Okay, that one's using something else. So let's just use and that. All right. Okay. So let's just view it again as a whole so you guys can appreciate it better. Okay. So it's looking really nice right now, but the 50% discount and the new are, I can hardly see it. So I'll add another violator there for the two. So I'll just copy this one and align it to the text here. Make that small, smaller, and then move it backward one step. And then move this center. And then I think I'll just use a white for this so that it's really pronounced. It's really highlighted there. It's okay. We have a 50% discount for our training. And then I'll make another violator for the new here because we want to say that it's new. Let's say hello. By the way, this is new. Check us out and then move it backward. Okay, so it's still a little bit big. And then just center this one. And then just so that we can separate, we can differentiate the new from the 50% discount, we can use the gray here. It's the gray. And then here, we'll use yellow. Okay. Here you go. That's our design. And this building photos and these three photos aren't matching. So we'll just edit this image and then remove the saturation, make it 0. And then we'll do the same for the rest. Okay, so that they're all matching. Okay, so I want you guys to look at the photos, at these three at the moment. So the shadows and the highlights are not in the same value. So if you're doing any editing on your photos, you have to match, you try to match it as much as possible, your shadows and highlights. So for this one, this is a little dark compared to this. So we can adjust the brightness just a little bit and then the contrast so that your shadows become deeper in shade. And then this one is, the shadows are very light. So we'll just adjust the contrast just a little bit and lower. Okay, so let's go see all and then adjust the shadows, other way, so that they're stronger. And then lower the highlights. Oops, sorry, other way, just a little bit. Okay, let's zoom out. So that is our email newsletter for Cebol Pinoy Consultancy Management. So let's just review again. So this is first page, second page, we got rid of the see more, and it became a long, narrow version of your newsletter. So that's our finished design. So here's a quick look at the before and after of our design. So let's recap what we've done. So first is the white space. So this is very important whenever you design anything, as it allows your elements to breathe. And I know the feeling that we always want to put more and more elements, but by doing that, you're not allowing hierarchy and emphasis to happen in your design. So resist the urge to add more elements in your designs. So by removing the unnecessary elements, which is in this case, the border, the triangle, and as well as the background, you can easily digest the information. And next is hierarchy. So hierarchy is not limited to just the visual aspect. So you see the biggest thing, you see the highlighted thing. There should also be a hierarchy of information. So by moving the new training at the top, and then the company description at the bottom, along with the social media links, it's easier to understand the purpose of the newsletter, which is to highlight the new 2-day training that they're offering for ISO, and it has a 50% discount. And lastly, contrast. So the colors have already achieved contrast because we have the yellow and then the neutral colors. But we've also created that in the typography by differentiating the weight and font sizes in the copy. Let's go to design number 2. So this is a design by Elijah and is for an organic beauty and wellness product company. So the organic shapes you see here are inspired by the design of the product packaging here, which is nice because it keeps it's in line with the branding. And at first glance, this looks very text heavy, but because this is a brochure that people will take time to read, you can get away with more text. So for this design, I think we can focus on contrast and white space to get the viewer past the cover. Okay, so let's hop on to the editor. So this is our trifold brochure. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So how many typefaces do you think this has? Just by looking at this first page. What do you guys think? 3, 4, there's 6. Let's see how many. So we have 1 is Object Sans. And then we have Calistoga. And then this is Source Sans Pro. Okay, so Elijah used 3, but I did say that the maximum number of typefaces that you have to use is 3, but each typeface that you use in your design should have a specific job, a purpose. If it's simply to just use it here as a body copy and information, contact information, and then the headline here, and then you have Source Sans Pro, maybe you can do away without Object Sans or Source Sans Pro, depending on your design. So maybe you can do away with that. So if the job for each typeface is not clear enough, maybe limit it to just 2. It should be enough to convey your message. Okay. So another thing that I noticed is that the tracking or the letter spacing here is very, very wide. It's very loose. Now, here, the problem with having that big of letter spacing is that it's hard to read. You can hardly see the actual space between words. And she used that same letter spacing for the headlines at the second page. Okay, so we will get rid of that so that you can read it better. And actually, for this one, I will change the color palette a little bit. So I'll make a new page and then delete this one. So have you ever heard of the 60-30-10 rule when it comes to color palettes? The 60-30-10 rule has actually been practiced by interior designers for a long time. And it's actually being used in graphic design, especially for UI and UX design. I think we can actually do the same thing here. So this is actually the green that I was looking at when it comes to the green. So since this is, let's say the whole page is 100% and 60% is about 2 panels. So if we divide it to 3, it's 33.3333. And so that will be your primary color. And then for the 30% of your color palette, that will be your secondary color. And the remaining 10% will actually be for your accent color. So for this one, this is actually the green that I was looking at because this green is very dull and it doesn't really capture the whole organic feel of the brand. Okay, so I will make another shape. And then we will just create our secondary color. So I want to make use of this brown, but a richer brown. Okay, so actually I've used about here the kind of brown, but the actual type hex code is actually 623A21. Okay, so that's our secondary color. And I want to make use of another neutral color. And actually browns are your neutral colors. So you have your whites, your grays, your blacks, and actually brown is also a neutral color because you don't know what exactly it is. So I'll just make another one here. Smaller. Okay. That's a bit bigger. And then I want to use a neutral brown. So let's just use a lighter shade of that. Okay, so that's about it. And the next color that I want to keep from the original one is the orange as an accent color. So copy this one. And then make that smaller, half that. And then she already has an orange, but I want to make it more vibrant, more alive. So it can be about there. Okay. And then the last accent color would be the white. So we'll keep that to our typefaces. Since we don't really have a lot of time for me to typesetting here, I've already pre-made the typefaces. Okay, so from the 3 typefaces that the original design had, which were Object Sans, Source Sans Pro, and Calistoga, I've only kept Source Sans Pro and Calistoga. This is actually a really great font pairing because it's a serif and it's a sans serif. And Source Sans Pro is able to do the same job as Object Sans in the original design for the headline and for the contact information. So for this one, I've used Your Partner In, which is in Beauty and Wellness, which is the headline and the cover. And then for this panel, I've used Source Sans Pro, and to highlight real natural ingredients, I used Calistoga. And then for the second page, so we have that did you know question in this first panel and the inside page. So I've made that the headline and then about us. And then I've also actually dedicated a panel just for the products itself. Okay, and then another thing that I added here are the lines. So it's just a nice element to highlight your text, which I've also copied here. So that's also important when you're doing your design. So repetition is actually another design principle. So if you're able to repeat certain elements all throughout your design, it makes it look more cohesive. Okay. And then I've also adjusted, it used to be a very big letter spacing. So I've adjusted it a little bit because this is bigger. So I've actually made it -15 and the line spacing bigger. Okay. So now that we have the typefaces done, now we'll just add the photos. Okay, so this photo here is actually really nice. It's, I think, spinach, photo of spinach. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a photo of spinach. So I'll just copy that one here. And I think that would be nice, a nice background to use for our first page. Okay, so let's check the opacity because it looks like it has, okay. So it's a 60%, so let's just make it 100. And then we'll just move it to the back. And then let's edit this image a little bit. If you're not confident in your photo editing skills, Canva does have filters, and you can edit the filters, the intensity of the filter. So for this one, I think I'll just use Epic, and then let's check the intensity. Okay, let's keep it at 50. Okay. So there's a readability issue because we have kind of a busy background. So let's just change the typefaces, the color of the fonts to white. Let's go white. And then the line will also be white. And of course, the social media icons are also white. So I'll just use the paint roller to apply the color to the rest of the icons. Okay. And then I'll just copy the logo here. So Command C, copy, and then Command V to paste. Center it. Then let's just make that a little bit smaller. About the same width as your headline at the bottom. And I want to make it just one color. Since this is an image, I'll just increase the contrast to 100 and the brightness to 100 to make it a reverse version. So it's looking nice, but I still can't read the typefaces, the text. So I'll just show you a little trick that I do. So just create a rectangle in the same size as your document. Okay. So if you want to extend or increase the size of any element here at Canva, you just hold Option for Apple and then just click and drag so that it's the same size. Okay. And then let's just change this to the green. Okay, so that's the green. Okay, that's the green that we have. And just change the opacity a little bit to 70%. Let's try. Maybe 60. Let's just move it back. Move back. Oh, yeah. Okay. And although this is looking nice, it's looking a little bit monotonous. So I want to add like a different color for the back cover. So I'll just make another one, another square, and then just change the size of this one. Okay, so let's just change the color of this one to the brown. Okay. So that's it. That's the first page done. So we've changed the typefaces and the typesetting. We've still maintained the center alignment of the text. And then actually this is still a little bit big. So we'll just make that a little bit smaller some more. Okay, so that's it. Okay, and then for the second page, let's move on to the second page. Now, there's a photo in the second page from the original design, which is really great also, because it really captures that healthy lifestyle that the product is offering. So let's just copy this photo here and then place it. I think I'll just place it here for the About Us because it's the one with the least text. And then just right click and then detach the image. So delete this frame and then make this size, same size as this panel. Okay, so let's just move that backward and backward. But with this kind of cropping, the text is actually covering her face. So we'll also adjust the scale of this photo. So let's make it big and then center her face there. Let's move that up a little bit. Okay. Okay. And done. Okay. So we have that photo there, and then I'll just edit the image again. I'll use festive, and then let's change the intensity to just 30. And then copy, I want to make that more muted so that we can read the text. And then copy this brown onto this page. So let's just move that backward some more. And then change the opacity to about, let's say 60%. Okay, let's zoom in. And then let's change these typeface color to white. And I can see that better. Okay, back at our color palette, our primary color is the green. So just use that same primary color again. Let's just copy and paste it onto this page. Let's just make it smaller and then move to back. Okay. Now we do have actually that orange, that nice orange that we haven't used even in the first page. So I want to use it here. So just make this once to that orange. It's orange. Oh, I'm sorry. Where is it? Okay. Okay, so I think this isn't the right green that I have. So let's just change it to the 13366. There you go. So it's a darker green. So it's a more earthy tone. And then let's change these body copy color to white. Actually a little bit dark. So just, there you go. Okay. So you can see we use the accent color by using that 60-30-10 rule. We're able to, that's guiding us how to design our work. And then for the last page, last panel, so we'll just add the photos of the products there. So these three, copy these three. And then just paste it. Okay, so we'll just center these ones, center it a little bit, center, and then this one. Just make it smaller, about that size. Move this down. This. And then, so I want to use that neutral brown as well. So this one, let's just copy this and then paste it here. And then make that the same size as that panel and then move that to the back. And then I still want to keep this accent orange. So let's just change this one to orange as well. So that's it. That's our design for the Trifold brochure. So this is the original one. And then the second page, then our color palette. So it's a more earthy tone. And then this is our page, our first page. And then this is the second page. So I've actually done a very quick mock-up of how this Trifold brochure will look like once it's printed. So as you can see, this is that one. When you receive this brochure, this is what it will look like. And as you open it, this is the first thing that you will see once you open the cover that way. So you can see it's a really nice blend of two pages together, two different panels together. And then once you open this panel to the right, it will open up to this. And then of course you have your back cover with the contact information. So let's just go over what we've done so far. So first, we changed the color palette to a more earthy, richer tone and replaced the background to a neutral color. So this way, we've created contrast between the product shots and the background, highlighting them further. So then we changed the cover with a photo to truly represent the natural and organic ingredients with the spinach photo that Elijah originally used in her design. So brochure covers are kind of like your storefront window. So it should immediately pique the curiosity of your reader to entice them to look inside. And last but not the least, we've changed the typography. So we decreased the tracking in the body copy so it's easier to read and limited the number of fonts from 3 to just 2, which are, again, so that's Calistoga for the headlines and then the highlighted phrases. And then for the body copy, we used Source Sans Pro. Yes. So, okay, so that's our trifold brochure. So let's move on to the third design. So design number 3 is by Trisha, and it's a social media post for FH Moms. So FH Moms is a really great group founded by MK Bertulo that equips Filipino moms with new skills that they can use to find work online and while taking care of their families. So now back to the design. So first off, I do like how Trisha used white space and how she arranged the copy. So despite the fact that this design actually has a lot of text, you can clearly see what you should read first, which is the headline, so the benefits of freelancing, then read the rest in a clockwise manner. Did you also read it that way, in a clockwise manner? Did you start with the headline first and then flexible working hours, income from multiple sources? Or you can read it counterclockwise, so being the boss of yourself, develop your skill set, can be read any which way. So the next thing I like is the clever use of the color palette. You can immediately tell that it is a post from FH Mom. So for this design, we'll turn this one post into an Instagram carousel so that we can really drive home the message. We'll also focus on hierarchy through the typography. Let's go make a carousel now. So this is Trisha's design. If you can see here, I'll just zoom in here a little bit. So you can see the logo of FH Moms. It's a comic book inspired logo. And we still want to keep that same feel and tone to our designs. So as you can see here, I've actually already picked out some of the elements that I will be using for this design, for this carousel. But if you will just go to the Elements tab and then look for comic expression or comic frame or comic book. So let's say, let's look at comic book and then go to graphics. You can see a lot of these pow, free, wow. And then, you know, if you're familiar with those Marvel or DC comics, when they punch something, it says bam. Or maybe you've seen those old Batman movies. It uses a lot of these kinds of elements. So if you're also familiar with the narration boxes in the comic books, it looks like these. And of course, there are text frames for the covers sometimes that says, okay, new edition or like something like that, okay, special edition. And of course, speech bubbles are also very comic book feel. And these are actually called speed lines. So they use that a lot in comic books. And of course, who can ever forget halftones? So it is because it's originally printed and they create a lot of halftones in the comic books. So these are the elements that I'll be using. So if you just look for comic book in the Elements tab or comic expressions. Okay, so I'll just make a new page for our first card in the carousel. So for this post, I think I will just divide it into 4 cards. The first one being just the benefits of freelancing, and then second card will be these 3, and then third card will be these 3, and then of course the fourth one is the CTA. Okay, so let's make the first card. So the colors I'm not going to change for this design, so I'll just use the red because it's very striking. And I will just copy this one. So just use that element, which is a comic expression. And then just paste it here. And then let's just make that big. Make that occupy the whole document. And then I'll just change this gray to the black. And then this, everything, let's just change all of those to the black. And then this one, oh, that's a good color. I'm not going to change that. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're gonna put in the first card will be the benefits of freelancing. So let's just look for a nice typeface for this. So if we go to here to the font library and then search for comic, these are display typefaces. So they actually have that same feel as a comic. So since I won't be using the typeface of FH Moms, I'll use something that's still captures that comic book inspired aesthetic. Okay, actually, I will use here, which is over here. I already chose it. So bangers. I'm just gonna make that really big. And if you saw in our elements, the typefaces actually have a shadow, which you can also do here by going to shadow. And then let's just change the transparency of this one to 100% and then change the color of the actual text to white. Now it's blending with your background. I will copy this typeface and then change the effect again. This time I'll use hollow and change the color of this to black. And then make this a little bit thinner. Okay. So that's looking really good. Actually, maybe I'll make this yellow. Oh, sorry. Well, chose the wrong one. Should be this one, yellow. There you go. So it's looking more and more like comic book. Okay, so I'll make this one the benefits of, and then use the same typeface as bangers. And make that bigger. Okay. Then I'll just highlight everything, move this a little bit, and then I'll just angle it so that it kind of copies that same angle of that element. Then I'll just copy the half tone, move it back here, and then send to back. And then copy that again. Maybe here, send to back. Okay, so that's our first card. It's popping. Okay, and then so for this one, I've actually already pre-made the typesetting. So I just change the photo. So since we've already used red, we'll use this one, the speed lines, and then place it here. Make that big, as big as your canvas, and then opacity to 10. Then move that back. And then, so I've mentioned the narration boxes. So we just copy that and then paste it here. So make that big. Move it back. I use the shortcut, which is Command and then the bracket. And then center these ones here. So we haven't used the yellow, so let's use the yellow. Then, okay. So do that again, same thing, make it bigger, make it a little bit bigger. Move that there. And then move these to the front. Actually, I'll use red for this one. And then this one is white. And then copy this one. Move this here a bit. And then move to the front. Okay, so that's it. But I want to angle it a little bit so that it's more dynamic that way. So that's our second card. And then for the third card, I just copy this text frame here and then place it there. Big, bigger. So just copy it 3 times. And move all of those to the back. Okay. It's big. With a comic book style like this, it doesn't have to be all the same because it's very fun. And so I've changed this copy from being your own boss to be your own boss. From being to be. So it's more conversational. Okay. There you go. Okay, so this is looking nice, but I just want to angle this a little bit like this. And then angle this a little bit like that. And then again, this one, just a little bit. Okay, and then center these ones. And then let's use yellow as the background. And then, okay. So make the text, our text to red. And then actually copy this one there. Big. And then move it back to the back. And then lower the opacity again to 10. Okay, so for our last card, we'll be creating the CTA. For this one, so that since this is the end of your carousel, so let's just copy the same red. And then I'll use these speed lines here and then just make it center. Center. Big, make it cover the whole page and then change it to, okay, so it's black, and then copy this speech bubble. So it's kind of like FH Moms is talking to their followers that way. And then so just center it again and then make that big. So let's make that yellow. So there is a nice contrast. So since they're talking about the benefits of freelancing, and that's exactly what FH Moms does. So let's do a CTA. So let's just use Cuprum again as the typeface, as the secondary typeface. So let's just say want to learn more. Okay, so let's just use that and make that a bit bigger. And then copy. Okay, so let's just make this one. Copy that. And then change the rotation back to 0. And then put it in the center. Visit our black. Copy, and then paste. Then this should be big, the website. Okay, so just make it 150. And then just put the website of FH Moms. FHMoms. So that's our carousel. So we have 4 cards, and then the last card should always be your call to action. So what do you want your followers to do afterwards? That's the third and last makeover. So carousels are very effective, especially when you have a lot of text that can't fit in just one post, and they can actually spark conversation between you and your followers. So let's recap quickly what we've done here. So we've split the text into different cards to create hierarchy in the information and ended with a CTA or a call to action. Then we used elements that are in line with the comic book style of the logo across the whole carousel. This way, it looks more cohesive. And of course, we changed the typography to contrast between the headline and the body copy. So that's it for the makeover portion of the show. I had so much fun doing the designs. We do have a bit of time for any questions, whether it's related to the designs we walked through or design in general, or anything you'd like to know about Canva.
First of all, I would just like to say a huge thank you to you, Rica, for coming on board today and teaching us all these wonderful tips in Canva. Even I learned something. I didn't know about the paintbrush feature to paint elements of color. So there you go. So our first question comes from Holly, and it was just regarding the rule of thumb using a max of 3 fonts.
Mhm.
And so she was just wondering whether that also includes the font of the logo or not.
No, it shouldn't. There are times where brands actually use the same typeface as the one that they used in their logo. Like, for example, McDonald's is actually Helvetica, and they use Helvetica in their branding. But there are also other brands that use different typefaces. So when you're using a logo, it's not usually included in the rule of thumb of 3. So it's just really for the rest of your layout that you're using.
Cool. Well, thank you. The next question comes from Connell, and he was wondering how you can space like 3 or 4 elements equally. And so I thought this might be a good time to demonstrate the tidy up feature.
Yes, definitely. Okay. So let's say we're using these ones. Okay, let's just copy this. And then we are going to tidy up 3 elements. Okay, so let's just move those. So let's do 3. Because 3 is a magic number. Okay, so let's say that this is here and then this is over here. Okay, so just highlight all 3 elements and then go to position and then press tidy up. So using the tidy up positioning and the alignment, it actually auto space the distance between each element and actually aligns them in the center. So that is the tidy up option. So there we go.
Perfect. Thank you. I feel like that is like magic. I love using it. Well, I think that is all the time we've got for today. And just before we wrap up, I would love to share with you all our Canva Design Circle Facebook group. So if you haven't joined it already, I would definitely recommend. We have over 230,000 members now, so it's getting rather large. And it's a great place to ask questions, hear about new feature rollouts, get tips and tricks, as well as feedback on your designs. And we also have a form for everyone to submit their designs for the next design makeover. So if you do want to go into the running to get a makeover by one of our Canva designers, simply enter in the details in this form. So you can scan the QR code on the screen now, or you can also head to the link, which I will post in the chat. Well, thank you all for attending the Design Makeover today. I hope you learned something, and make sure to stay tuned for future episodes with our extremely talented design team here at Canva. Make sure to also follow us on all our social channels for everything you need to know about design. Well, have a great day or evening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.